Hello again. A 36-year-old man's been charged with murder, accused of cutting off another man's leg with a power saw and leaving him to die. The incident took place early Saturday morning, with police setting up a crime scene at Innisfail's Fitzgerald Esplanade after a 66-year-old man was found and later pronounced dead at the scene. Detective Acting Inspector Gary Hunter says there was an alleged arrangement between the pair in place for the amputation of the leg. Police say the men were known to each other. The 36-year-old man charged with murder is set to appear in court today. In other news, our borders have officially opened to fully vaccinated international tourists. Before the pandemic, around 1 million international visitors a year came to Cairns and the Great Barrier Reef. It's expected to be a slow burn at first, but Mark Olsen from Tourism Tropical North Queensland says it's still a major milestone. Meanwhile, police will begin piloting military-grade drones around Cairns this week. This comes as the state government made an announcement of a $400,000 investment into airborne policing. The drone technology will help track down vehicles and assist in locating missing people. Also making news, motorcyclists are vulnerable users of our roads, and statistics show riders can take more responsibility for their own safety. New figures show 68% of riders who have died on our roads were inexperienced, 93% of crashes involved speeding, and the rider was deemed to be at fault in 73% of fatalities. And the Cowboys have had an impressive 24-12 trial win against the Rabbitohs in Cairns at the weekend. Coach Todd Payten was impressed with Dejan Arce and Griffin Neem's performance. A shower or two in Cairns today with a top of 32. Good afternoon. The Townsville University Hospital has declared a code yellow internal emergency following demand for inpatient wards unrelated to COVID and its emergency department. The hospital declared the emergency on Friday morning after the average number of daily presentations had risen above the average. Chief Kieran Keys denied the emergency department was overwhelmed, confirming they're up to the task. In other news, staff at the troubled Cleveland Youth Detention Centre will be doubled, with the possibility of more in the future. 7 additional workers were deployed from Brisbane last week, with another 7 expected in the next fortnight. According to the bulletin, the state government agreed to a raft of commitments, including an immediate boost to staff and the establishment of the Queensland Youth Detention Reform Action Group. Meanwhile, Townsville Police will get their hands on military-grade drones this week as part of a $400,000 investment in airborne policing. The technology will aid in tracking down vehicles and locating missing people. Also making news, more than $23 million will be shared across 18 not-for-profits in Queensland over 4 years to save lives and make our roads safer. It's after a horror start to the year on our roads, with 40 lives lost so far, including 3 fatalities on North Queensland roads. And in NRL news, the North Queensland coach says 2 players impressed him on the field at Baily Park. Todd Payten says Griffin Neem's earned himself a spot in this week's trial game against the Broncos for his performance at the weekend. The Cowboys had an impressive 24-12 pre-season win against the Rabbitohs in Cairns on Saturday. To the weather, a possible shower for Townsville today, 32 degrees the top for air, and EM can expect a shower or 2. That's all for now. Good afternoon. A man in his 30s was airlifted to hospital on Sunday afternoon after he reportedly fell 6 metres while hiking in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. Just before 2:30 yesterday, paramedics rushed to the Glasshouse Mountains to treat the man who suffered a significant leg injury. He was flown to the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital in a stable condition. Meanwhile, emergency crews were called to Black Mountain last night following a mower incident. Just after 6:30, paramedics arrived at a private property after a male in his 60s reportedly fell off a mower. He was transported to Nambour Hospital in a stable condition with a suspected leg injury. In other news, there's now less than 2 weeks to go until millions of us make a pledge to clean up Australia. It's the country's largest community-based environmental event and will be held on Sunday, March 6. This year, organisers are also launching a citizen science project to measure the extent of our face mask litter. Beach cleanup efforts will be run across the Sunshine Coast, including Plastic-Free Noosa, who will run the initiative at Noosa Woods from 8 a.m. For more information, head to the Cleanup Australia website. And the Sunshine Coast e-scooter speed limits are being reduced. We can only travel at a maximum speed of 12 kilometres an hour. That's half of what scooters were allowed to do previously. But Transport Minister Baily says they won't be programmed to the new speed, with users being responsible for how fast they travel. New parking rules will also be put in place, plus scooters must have a bell or horn. A local police blitz will be rolled out over the coming weeks, with the new measures expected to be enforced from next month. A possible shower for Noosa today and similar conditions for Caloundra with a top of 29 degrees. Good afternoon. Police are investigating after 4 gunshots were allegedly fired at a Frenchville home last Tuesday, located near a local primary school. Rockhampton police swarmed the suburb around 9:45 p.m. in response to the incident. Authorities say a vehicle was spotted leaving the scene at speed following the disturbance. No charges have been laid and investigations are ongoing, while no injuries were reported. Meanwhile, a male in his teens has been transported to Capricorn Coast Hospital following a suspected snakebite to the foot. Paramedics were called to a private address in Baily just before 7:45 last night. He was taken to hospital in a stable condition. In other news, the race for the by-election seat of Callide is heating up. Chinchilla geologist and farming advocate Bryson Head is the LNP's newly pre-selected state candidate. He says he's proud to potentially continue the work of the outgoing state member. Colin Boyce is stepping down from his role to run in the upcoming federal election as the LNP's candidate for Flynn. And close to 1,200 lives were saved across Australia last year through organ transplants. 2021 also saw a record number of us register to be an organ donor, but there's hopes to see those numbers increase. For more information, head to the Donate Life website. To sport, the Rockhampton and Mackay rivalry has been settled for the time being, with the Capras securing the win over the Cutters. Our side coming away with a 22-10 point win. The Capras also claimed victory in the Colts and under-18s men's games, while the Cutters women showed their worth, taking down the Capra side 18-8. To the weather, mostly sunny in Rockhampton today and 32, similar conditions in Gladstone and 30 degrees. Good afternoon. A new candidate is in the running for the upcoming federal election. United Australia Party has pre-selected Christine Nash as their representative for the Hinkler electorate. The business advisor says she's focused on abolishing COVID vaccine mandates, fixing social housing, and is promising more business incentives. The federal election has to be held before May 21 this year, with the Electoral Commission confirming we won't need to be vaccinated to cast our vote at the ballot box, but masks will most likely be mandatory. In other news, Bundaberg and Hervey Bay's e-scooter speed limits are being reduced. We can only travel at a maximum speed of 12 kilometres an hour. That's half of what scooters were allowed to do previously. But Transport Minister Baily says they won't be programmed to the new speed, with users being responsible for how fast they travel. New parking rules will also be in place, plus scooters must have a bell or horn. A police blitz is being rolled out over the coming weeks, with the new measures expected to be enforced from next month. Meanwhile, more Queenslanders are interested in taking up a career in real estate. Real Estate Institute of Queensland's recent survey found around 30% of people say a move into the industry was on their mind. Antonia Mercarella says it's off the back of the soaring property market in the Wide Bay, as well as COVID lockdowns. Taking a look at local sport news, and in cycling, the Trade Tools Supercrit Series has wrapped up with a third and final race taking place yesterday, with Race 3 first place honours in the A-grade event going to Dallas. The Fraser Coast Cycling Club will now take a 2-week break before commencing its final crit series for Term 1. 30 in Bundaberg today, mostly sunny in Hervey Bay, and 31 in Maryborough.